It's great to welcome Rhodri Thomas, this afternoon. And Rhodri leads a church with his wife, Katie, in a place called Sarn, which is just north of Bridgend. But I'm not going to say too much about that. So welcome, Rhodri. And just as a sort of a brief introduction, can you just explain, tell people who you are, and just very briefly, just give us a little bit of background, would you? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thanks, Gwyneth. So as you've said, my name's Rhodri. I'm married to Katie, and we have three beautiful children, all primary school aged. And yes, it is a very busy life, family life with us. We live in Sarn, so we're just north of Bridgend. And we serve and lead a church plant called Gateway Church. And it's a church plant in this area where you've got the village of Sarn, which is most famous for MacArthur Glen designer outlet, where you might do some of your shopping. It's a village which then joins onto a whole bunch of other villages you may have heard of, like Bryn Cethyn, Bryn Menyn, Tondi, Aberkenfig, and they all sort of merge into this wider area, which has been nicknamed the Bridgend Valley's Gateway. So we were super creative when it came to naming our church Gateway, based for the past 4 years.
Brilliant. Thank you. So you've planted this church. Tell us a little bit about your journey to actually getting to that place where you planted. Can you just share with us?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So our journey it's probably about 15 years in the making. Don't worry, I won't take 15 years to explain the journey.
So you were about 4 when you started, was it?
Oh, I wish. Although looking back now, I can't believe it's been that long. But that's very kind of you to make that comment.
Oh, you look young. Yeah.
I'm 35 years old for the record.
Okay.
About 15 years in the making. It all started at the beginning of our journey was when Katie and I were students in Cardiff University. So this was 2006 to 2010, and we served on this ministry called Revive, which was a student-led ministry that was linked to the Christian Union. And we would send teams of students to small, struggling churches in the South Wales valleys, and we would just bring a whole load of energy and activity. So particularly towards youth work and kids work. And we would do missions over the summer and just try and make a bit of a bang as we supported these churches. So our journey really started whilst we were serving on that ministry, where we really felt the Lord opening up our eyes to the desperate need there is in these sorts of valleys communities across South Wales, north of the M4, outside of the large towns and cities that you see along the coast of South Wales. So obviously, there's lots of social issues which we came to encounter. But even more so, just the spiritual need, the desperate need for the gospel that there is in these communities. We found ourselves just having this seed planted in our heart from the Lord that we needed to do something to address the need, that the statistics were damning in terms of the rate of church decline, and we just thought, I don't know what it is we need to do, but we have to do something to address it. So really, that was the start of our journey, where God just planted this general call to do something. And then things sort of developed over, like I said, a sort of 15-year sort of journey for us. So after university, Kate and I got married. We were invited back to my home church, Grace Community Church in Porthcawl, and we were invited to come on the leadership team at Grace. And this was with a view of, oh, you guys are feeling some sort of call into church planting, come and be with us for a period of time, and get trained up, get equipped, get ready to go and do a church plant. So we had time frames in our head of like, that could be 6 months, that could be 12, maybe 18 months. And before you knew it, 9 years had passed. And
Wow,
we did
okay.
in that time, we just got stuck into church life. We served wherever we could serve. We got super busy in serving the church in Porthcawl. We got on with life. So obviously we just got married. A few years later, we had our first child. We bought our first house. We bought our second house. Things like we just kind of got on with real life. But all through that time, we were intentionally prayerful. So we knew that God had called us to do something. We still held this general call of there is so much need across the South Wales Valleys community. And at different points had, quite intentional times of praying, saying, Lord, is now the time to move on? Is now the time to train? So, like I said, we were kind of getting on with life. I was working a full-time job, so I was working for Cardiff University as a research scientist over that time, but with an ear to the ground. Lord, when is it that you were going to call us on?
And it's something sorry to interrupt. It's something
No,
you can't get away from, isn't it?
No.
When God's spoken to you here, everything in life comes back to that, doesn't it?
That's right.
So, sorry, go on.
No, that's a really helpful point. It stuck with us. We certainly didn't have like that Jonah moment of let's go in the opposite direction, but we certainly had a kind of like, we're in the right place, but we know there's another place, if that makes sense. And the Lord just sort of kept that on our heart, and we stayed intentionally prayerful over that time. So we had a few moments where we kind of like were intentionally praying into, is now the right time to move on and do something different. I think there were small things that God was changing in our minds during that time. So things like, do we want to go and support another church plant? Do we want to lead a church plant? Certainly something that became clear to me was, whatever it looks like, I want to have some sort of theological training to go into it. So that was something that was part of our intentional praying. But then the real shift in stuff for us, and the change in the journey, was around the time of 2017. So in January 2017, I knew that was the year. So with my job with Cardiff Uni, I was doing a PhD part-time with that job. And the start of 2017, I was like, okay, this is the year where I'm going to finish up my lab work, I'm going to write up my thesis, and I know something is going to need to change, whether it's a new job or whatever. There's a natural change in seasons that was coming that year in 2017 anyway. So that served as a trigger for us to kind of get praying again. Is now the time to move on, get that theological training, and look towards a church plant. And do you know what? 2017 was the year where the Lord truly spoke to us and moved us forward, moved us on in his plans. So the kinds of different ways that he spoke to us, first of all, there was a sense of, when you sort of, you sense something in your spirit, you just feel, I'm pulled towards this rather than that. So we had a fair amount of that. But the other way that the Lord really spoke to us in that time was through circumstances and through events. So we had laid out at the start of 2017, Lord, is this a year where I get a new job and kind of pursue further into a career in science, or is this the time to jump out of that career pathway and to seek theological training? And we had some miraculous and wonderful things happening whilst we were actively praying. We had people, several people approach us and say, we've been saving up some money for you to go to Bible college, Rod. When can we give you these thousands of pounds to see you go to Bible college? Which is a bit of an indication that the Lord might be taking us in a certain direction. But the other thing, and we often talk about open doors and closed doors, and the other thing that happened during that time was I was finishing my PhD. I'd worked with a lovely research research group in Velindre, the cancer hospital in Cardiff, and there was a job that they were trying to get together, a research proposal, and they were seeking funding for this job with a view of having me come and work with their group after I'd finished my PhD. And honestly, it would have been the perfect job for me if I could have written my own job description and chosen the people to work with. That's exactly what it would have been. And yet, no matter how perfect that was, the funding never came through for that job. I met some of those guys a couple of years later after all of those events, and they said that job, that the funding never ever came for that job. So just through those sorts of events and circumstances, God made things really clever for us in really clear for us in 2017, that now is the time for me to finish up in science and to get theological training. So by September.
So there were a number of things, number of indicators that were pointing you in this direction. So there was no sort of one big flash moment. The reason I'm asking this is because, some people who will be watching this and listening to this may be seeking direction from God, and they feel, whether it's to church planting or whether it's something else, but they're sensing this call and they're sensing God taking them in a direction. And sometimes we do want that, massive, clear moment of God speaking so clearly that we're, floored by it in a way. But it doesn't always come like that.
No.
So you didn't have any of those Damascus Road experiences as far as God speaking to you. It was just a number of things lining up. Am I right?
Yeah, that's really helpful. God does speak in different ways and leads us, different people, in different ways. Of course, he does. But I think what was really helpful for us was that, yes, each of those things were little. And yet by the time we sort of had pieced those all together, we came to a point where it's just like, we're either going to be obedient or we're going to be disobedient, and at that point it was so very clear to us what the Lord was telling us to do and to move on to next. So for your listeners watching this, I would very much encourage them, it doesn't need to look a particular way when we hear God's call in and then respond to God's call in. Be prayerful. That's what we were doing, and that's how he brought us to the place that we brought us.
And then you've got to there's a place that you come to, and this is what my wife Jill and I have experienced. It's a place you come to where you have to take a step of faith.
Absolutely.
You just have to go with what you believe God is saying to you, because there is that faith element of stepping out the boat, isn't there?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Rhodri, we're up to where you went to Union College in Bridgend.
That's right.
Were you still in Grace Community Church in Porthcawl at this stage?
That's right, yeah. So I did my 2 years of training, 2017 through to 2019. And all that time we were still at Grace and still serving our socks off. And I guess with a slightly sort of different angle of, this is leading towards church planting. So we're doing much more sort of preparatory work during that time. One of which was to be like, but where should we go? Where should we plant a church? And this is really my journey of kind of God going from a general call on our lives, which we recognized back in, when we were students, through making things clearer step by step, and very much giving us a specific call in and a specific location by the time we were, further down that road. So that's what we were doing during those 2 years of Bible college that I had, still serving at Grace, but we then were prayer walking, prayer driving as well, around Bridgend County in particular, because we were going to plant out of Grace Porthcawl. We wanted to not be so far away that logistically that kind of feels difficult to do, and like as if we've just been sent away. We wanted to be close enough that we could still be a mother, daughter, sister kind of church relationship with Grace Porthcawl. So we were traveling and looking around the valleys in Bridgend. There's 3 valleys: the Ogmore, the Llinvi, and the Garw Valley in Bridgend. We were driving up and down them, prayer walking in different locations. And it was during that time that we just got this sense of, man, it's, even though the number of miles aren't too far from Porthcawl, even at the top of some of these valleys, just psychologically these feel like very different, very far away places. So we actually felt this leading from the Lord, and in similar ways speaking to us, of why don't we plant at the bottom of these valleys with a view of, we want to be an onward blessing to these valleys. One of the things we found prayer driving and walking through the valleys was just, man, to use a completely improper term, you're spoilt for choice for places and communities that need a church plant. There are numerous places that really need a
so
gospel.
sad. Yeah, it's so sad to hear that, and it's so sad, to be able to say that, really, that there's the need is so desperate.
That's huge.
That you're spoiled for choice. So
yeah,
but bless God, things are changing.
Things are changing.
So that's the good news.
That's right. And that's a big how God sort of led us to this area here in Sarn and Verketh and Bremen, in the gateway area where we are here, was the vision of establishing a church at the bottom of the valleys that has a view and a vision to be an onward blessing. Brilliant. Up to the valleys that feed into our particular community. Brilliant. Here. So, whether that's 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, I don't know. But still, we have this intention, built into our DNA and our vision in Gateway Church that, yes, we have a community immediately on our doorstep to reach, but we know that there's great need further up the valleys that are just natural highways through our location here. So that's part of our vision.
Yeah, a couple of things strike me as I'm listening to you here, Rhodri. Excuse me. The first thing is, for people who don't understand the sort of South Wales area, you've got the M4 that cuts across, and south of the M4 is a very sort of spiritually rich environment as far as churches are concerned. You've got Cardiff, you've got Bridgend, you've got Newport further along, then you've got Swansea. Even in the Vale, you've got a lot of good churches in that area. But once you go north of the M4, there are some good churches, obviously, but they're few and far between then, and there's a culture change. It's like sort of stepping over a border into a different environment, isn't it?
That's right.
You've communicated that already, but I'm just mentioning that so that people who are not familiar with this area of South Wales understand, this stepping into a different culture, different environment, spiritually and economically as well, isn't it? So, and then the other thing is, we are here to hear you, okay? But as these things come up, the other thing that struck me is the role that churches like Grace Community Church play in putting their arms around guys like you and Katie, helping to nurture you with a view that they're going to release you. That is key role, because I keep hearing this, and so I want to honor those churches, really, including Grace Community Church, in doing fantastic. That, because they feel, they may not see it in the bigger picture, but when you sort of step back and look, wow, they're forming these leaders like yourselves. They're giving opportunities. You're cutting your teeth basically in that church. You're making your mistakes, and but then
few of them.
But then they're building you up in order to release you, and you can't underestimate the work that these churches do. So to any church leaders that are involved in that, not just Grace Community Church, we honor you, because we honor you because you're part of the bigger picture.
That's I was going to particularly pick up on that it's one of the churches like Grace Porthcawl, and there are others that have done this, is that it requires that kingdom mindset rather than a individual church
Yeah.
mindset
So
and
important.
advancement of God's kingdom on earth.
Yeah.
That's what we need, you know, in the small and the large, in the well-equipped and in the few. That's what we need in our nation. Big time.
Yeah, because it's not territorial. They can't afford to be territorial because it's a kingdom, and with kingdom, it's sowing all the time. You know,
That's right.
You're sowing, whether it's mercy or finances, or you're sowing people as well. So a kingdom-minded church will do what you guys have experienced.
Absolutely.
And I'm already picking up from you, Rhodri, that is your mindset, because you say that you're an onward blessing to the valleys. You're already thinking about, you said it might be 5 years, might be 10 years. You're already thinking about, okay, how can we sow further up the valleys and stuff? So it's so important to have this kingdom mindset. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like we've gained a family who live up in the Garu Valley, and just man, what could the future hold with them? If they bring a few more neighbours or something like that, we could have a small group up there. A few more
I
on top
love
of
it.
that.
I love the way you're thinking.
You
I
know,
love the
kind
way
of
you're
like,
thinking.
yeah, you want things to multiply, because, you know, like, yeah, a healthy church in the Bridgend Valley's Gateway would be fantastic, but one up in the Garu as well. You're just like, oh man, like that's what I live and breathe for. I want to see that. I want to see transformation more widely than just in our one spot, for sure.
You know, it's so, and this is one of the reasons I enjoy doing this so much, with having these conversations, is that I'm seeing what God is doing in various situations. But there are some common factors. And one of the common factors is exactly what you're saying and thinking. How can we, reach that part of the valley? Or it comes up time and time again. So that is the name of the channel, is What is God Doing in Wales? Well, that is one of the things God is doing in Wales, is that he's instilling a kingdom mindset into young church planters like yourselves that are not territorial and, okay, we've got a great church here and we're going to build our church here. Yes, you're going to build a great church, but you've always got one eye on thinking, okay, how can we sow further up the valley or whatever? It's really exciting, because I'm seeing that, with a number of sort of you young pioneer leaders, and it's refreshing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's exciting, and if there could be more and more of us with this mindset, and looking just to put a flag in the ground and say, you know what, this locality is for God's kingdom.
Brilliant.
The potential is huge.
So tell us about Gateway Church now then, okay? Because you planted in a particularly challenging time, didn't you? Yeah. So tell us, when did you plant, and then what happened?
Yeah, so if I start off with some of the dates, you know exactly where this is going to go.
Okay.
So Katie and I, with our family, we moved house to Sarn in November 2019.
Okay.
Which March 2020, and we all know what happened then. So obviously COVID hit.
But you hadn't launched. Sorry to interrupt. You hadn't launched then. No. Okay. So you.
No, that's right. We had moved onto location, but hadn't launched. So we had all of these kind of, like, you read the church planting textbooks, and this is the plan, is that sort of we move into
fun.
The plan to move in, start doing prayer meetings in the home, start to gather a team, all while still being connected to our sending church. So we were going to Porthcawl on a Sunday morning, but just being on the ground in our mission field then for the rest of the time, and all those things are kind of gathering in the home with a view of maybe a home church, like in the living room to start off with, as you kind of move towards and grow towards a church plant and going public with this thing. And of course that was completely impossible with COVID, particularly in Wales in comparison to the other nations in the UK. It was a long time before we were able to be in each other's homes, wasn't it? So that came with a real sense of difficulty. It's difficult for many reasons, wasn't it? But in terms of moving towards a church plant, very difficult, that you can't do all those things that kind of were in the plan and would be your natural way of progressing towards a public launch. So it was tough for us. Nevertheless, I look back on those years of lockdown, and I really do recognize God's grace during that time, and he did a few things which were really good and helpful amongst us. So it gave us time as a church planting team, the team that we were gathering, just to slow down, to pause, and to take time to get to know each other better, to pray together, to instill the vision and the values for Gateway Church. And we recognize that as so helpful, that we weren't too quick. We had no option to go too quickly into the busy work and the practical elements of publicly launching a church plant. One of the big things that we recognize as an amazing part of God's providential care of us was the community and the context where we are. Obviously, it's a valleys-like community. It's quite close, very close-knit community here. We found that being under lockdown, being forced to stay local, and even the 5-mile rule, which actually excluded us from being able to go back to our home church in Porthcawl, it forced us to be local. It forced us to explore our area. It forced us to meet up with people, when you're allowed to meet up outside. All of those things, which we actually recognize. If we had done things otherwise, we probably would have fast-forwarded those important church planting steps, especially in a close-knit community like ours. So yes, it was a stall. We felt like horses, waiting in the block, ready to go. Yeah. But at the same time, God did really important things of just bedding us into this community before we were able to go public and to publicly launch Gateway Church.
Would you? I understand what you're saying. You were forced to embed in the community. Would you recommend that is something that new church planters would consider before actually going public? Is that they go into a community where they feel they're being called, and they just
do life
for 12 months, 18 months to get to know the community? And would you, is that something you'd recommend?
Yeah, for sure. So I think obviously these sorts of ideas are quite context dependent. So I think probably in a big city scenario, you probably could kind of like, go for a big, put it all over social media, make a big event, and kind of off you go. That could potentially work in those contexts. But particularly smaller contexts, your small towns and villages, your rural Wales kind of contexts, I would definitely say taking the time to build up trust, taking the time to be part of the community is really, really important. I think something that we're recognizing more and more in our church, that you kind of want to make a big splash when you launch a church plant. You kind of want all eyes to be on you, and you want people to come in and all that stuff. That's what we do, and we do it for the gospel, that people might encounter Jesus through such efforts.
Your spiritual adrenaline is sort of pumping, isn't it? Really, you just want to get on with it. The mission. Your heart is for it. So you just want to get on with it.
You want to make a big splash. But I think what I'd say, just with a bit of wisdom, hopefully, is that some communities, the longer, the slower game is a bit more the right way of doing things. Take time to build up trust. Take time to show that you love where you live, that you're here for the long haul. You're not just here now and you'll be gone in 5 years like so many transient wanderers. But no, we love this place, and we want the gospel for this place, because we love it and we are part of it. So so I'd certainly recommend that sort of contextual sensitivity there. If you're looking to plant in a smaller, closer knit community, then don't be in too much of a rush to kind of do the big splash moments and get to know the place, move in, do life. It's so important.
It just sounds to me as if, both of you were raring to go, 2019, okay? And obviously the pandemic hit. But what you've actually sort of learned and achieved in the 18 months, 2 years where you couldn't launch the church has actually been extremely valuable.
Yeah.
Extremely valuable, and has given you a really solid foundation to then, or a stronger foundation to then be able to launch.
Yeah, for sure.
And launch more successfully. Would that be a correct way of looking at it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think would we have learned those lessons if COVID hadn't happened? I don't know, but certainly I'm grateful to God that we learned those lessons and had that opportunity to learn the hard way, but learn an important lesson.
Yeah. So when did you actually start meeting as a church? And was that 2021 too?
June. So the summer of 2021 was when we first started, and in the bizarrest of circumstances, we could meet in a public venue, socially distanced, masks on, all that sort of stuff. We could do that before we could meet in our homes. So again, all those ideas of let's quietly build up and build up to a public launch, those were not options for us. So June 21, things were opening up a little bit more in Wales in terms of public venues. So we approached a few different places in our locality, and of all the places, we got an open door with the cricket club in Tondy, and they've got a big sports hall that they said that we could use, and obviously have all the space there for social distancing and all of that. So so June 21, we had our first service, our first Sunday morning worship service in the cricket club. Our other kind of times were kind of over Zoom, which was just bizarre. So our kind of like midweek Bible studies were over Zoom. Yet we would meet in the cricket club on a Sunday morning, and wonderfully, we had a team of about half a dozen of us from Grace Porthcawl, a few more kids thrown into the mix as well. But over lockdown, just through friendships that we had through the local running club, we were actually starting off the church with more people than our original planting team from Grace Porthcawl. So we had
say that again. Sorry, I missed that one.
So we had friendships in the local running club. So me and a few others from the church planting team have been part of this Ogmore Phoenix Runners Club. And amazingly over lockdown, we prayed for a couple of people, and they've just got these wonderful stories of prodigals, people who had walked away from church, connecting with us, hearing about our plans for a local church plant, and we're like, oh, well, why don't you get that started? Let me come along. And even some people joined us on Zoom before we were able to start those public meetings. So God was so gracious. We were starting off the church plant with, our church planting team, but also some locals as well who kind of had come join us over lockdown and all that. So
that's the grace of God, because you can't plan that sort of thing. It's the kindness of God and really encouraging you and giving you confirmation, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So what's happening in the church now? What sort of things are encouraging you at the moment now? Because you're 2.5 years down the road now from launch anyway. What sort of things are encouraging you that God is moving amongst you, and are you able to share?
So I think, like I was mentioning with that one person from the running club, a couple of others, we've had several prodigals come home. I think that's been a real lovely testimony of what God has been doing in Gateway Church, and it's just such a joy. People who maybe have some sort of church background but have walked away, to come back and to find a home with us, back in the family of God, back in relationship with Jesus, is what I live and breathe for. It's.
And is it something you've been praying for as well?
Yeah.
Specifically prodigals, was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So we've got several stories of that. Another thing that's encouraging and challenging as well would be that we've got quite a few sort of non-Christians and people without a church background kind of engaging with us. So sometimes they're on a Sunday, sometimes at other events, which is really exciting. We're here to be a missional community. We're here to see this locality, this community re-evangelized. So to have people in that situation of life to be engaging with us, it's a slow journey to kind of get there, but nevertheless they're engaging with the gospel, they're hearing the gospel. So that's really encouraging, and we are praying for people to just have that penny dropping moment where it goes from like, oh, I'm engaging with a church, through to I'm going to give my life to the Lord and become a Christian. So that's something that we have going on.
Just to encourage you, really, that I'm just looking at the bigger picture of, you moved in November 2019, and we're now November 2023, so it's 4 years. Okay. And I'm just looking at the bigger picture of that 4 years, how God has done so much in your lives, for you and Katie and the church, because you are in a different place now as far as being pioneer leaders than you were in November 2019. So he's done that work in you in that 4 years, but he's also done the work in other people's lives as well, in the community and that's amazing. So I just want to encourage you that you are making a difference to people. You are making a difference to the community. And as God is making a difference in your lives and growing you as leaders, he's using you to impact other people as well. So
thank you. And that's really encouraging, and we certainly feel a sense of God is preparing us for more. I think having just a few other people now coming in, seeing their lives, especially these prodigal sorts, their lives are transformed. They're in such a better place than they are now, and you just feel as if God, platform by platform, is just building us up and preparing us for more. So that's certainly something we're seeing. It's don't get me wrong, this isn't like glory days where everything's just sort of exploding and super exciting and all that. It's a hard graft. It's a long work. Like I said, this is 4 years in the making already, which a lot happens in 4 years. So it's so it is a long haul process, but nevertheless we do get the sense of God has been building, God has been changing, God has been bringing people in, and we are expectant for him to do more, that the tide is going to come back in communities like ours, and we're hoping to see more and more people come in, to come know Jesus. That's why we're here, that's why we're doing all of this.
Brilliant. You may not be in the glory days yet, okay, Rhodri? But, and this is, really sort of heavy on my heart, but you have made a difference and continue to make a difference. So even though you haven't seen the glory days yet, we're all sort of, we say that a bit.
You hear stories of revivals and you're just like, well, surely that's going to happen when I start a church.
But you've made such a difference in the 4 years, really, in different people's lives. And one of the good ways of seeing what God is doing in our lives is to actually look back to see where we were.
Yes.
And what's happened since 2019 we're talking about here. And it's easier for somebody from the outside to look in and see, wow, okay, I can see that progress. Because we're in our own journey every day, we can sort of miss, and we're dealing with what's in front of us, we can miss what actually God is doing in a bigger picture. So I just want to encourage you, and hopefully Katie will watch this at some stage, and I'm encouraging Katie as well.
Thank you.
Well done, both of you, and the team that's with you, in just keeping on, really.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's
So,
really encouraging. Thanks,
yeah.
Gwyneth. That's helpful. And let me
Are
just
you,
share.
yeah,
Can
go on.
I
Sorry, go
share
on.
one more story
Of course you
just of
can.
encouragement of that, and just the way that God has been working, and like I said, it's a long slog, and moments like this story that I'm going to tell you now just are a huge part in God just keeping us going. So I want to tell you about our community Easter egg hunt that we did earlier this year. It was our second one. We did one last year as well, and we we put adverts out on social media. We kind of try to promote it as much as possible, but you never know who's going to turn up on the day. We had a really successful one the year before, and so we had a rough idea of like, oh, okay, let's try and get 100, I think I ended up getting 140 Easter eggs ready for people to do a little Easter egg hunt around our local park.
I hope this story is going to end well, Rhodri. Otherwise,
it's going to end well, Gwyneth. Have hope.
okay.
It's a good one. So we managed to get 140 Easter eggs with a view of people with their kids go around, do the Easter egg hunt, and then get their Easter egg at the end of the story, at the end of their Easter egg hunt. So we had 140 ready. And we very quickly, as it came to the time of the people's arrival at this egg hunt, we realised we didn't have enough eggs for all the people turning up. Katie's dad was like, "Can I have your car keys? I need to get to the shop and go pick up some more Easter eggs." And yeah, so it was this amazing story of like, we don't like before that we didn't really have any gauge of how well are we engaging with this community of people. You have no idea of like profile and awareness of people know you're actually there. So for us to do that, and we estimate kind of we probably gave away 200 eggs or something like that.
Brilliant.
You then add in the grown-ups who've come with their kids, and you're talking about 300, 400 people turning up to a church-led event. And in a community like this, which kind of nothing like that happens, was just amazing. And I remember we had prayed. It was either the night before or the morning of the egg hunt. We prayed along the Ephesians 3 prayer of God, would you do more than we can ask or imagine, and he did more than we could ask or imagine, or could he really cope with, if we're honest. but just things like that, we just go, oh man, God is at work in this community. He is bit by bit making his church known and making himself known in this community, and it's just a delight to be on the ride with him, and a privilege for him to use us to do things like that. So
amazing.
That's one of the good moments, and there's all the challenges as well.
I feel I need to apologize, because when you said you had about 150 eggs, the thought came to me, he's going to say that they had 110 left over. Okay. So that's why I said, so please forgive me. Oh, you little faith. Yeah. So forgive me for sort of, but that's amazing. Honestly, amazing.
You, yeah.
And I apologize sort of that I had that thought and then expressed it. I hope this is going to end well.
No apology needed. I'm now drooling at the thought of 100 leftover eggs for me to have to bear the brunt of having to sort them out and see them finished.
Yeah, but that just reminds me of the feeding of the 5,000. How we're going to feed them. And Katie's dad was there, did you say? And
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he went to get some. So brilliant. Are you still in the cricket club?
We're still in the cricket club. Yeah, we're still there. The cricket club is a lovely home for us. We've got a great relationship with the staff there. I think probably we want a longer term home as well. I think one of the things we find is when you're hiring a venue is that it's not really your space. It's your space for a narrow window of time, but then others coming in and all that stuff. So it's something that we are praying into is God to give us a longer term venue. But yeah, the cricket club's been very much a blessing to us. It allowed us to start a church when we couldn't even meet in each other's homes. So they've been a good home for us.
Great. So the reason I'm asking is, if people want to connect with you, they can connect with you through Facebook.
Yeah.
They can connect through the website.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gateway.cymru.
yeah. Instagram maybe.
We have an Instagram as well. I'm not on Instagram, but we have some social media buffs who are
Okay.
running all of that for me. So
Okay.
yeah,
'Cause I'll-
Facebook, Instagram, and the website.
Yeah, I'll try and put the details in the description. That if anybody
thank you.
sort of wants to connect, that
Mm.
yeah, it's this time's gone so quickly.
I know. I'm looking at the watch that you got on the top left-hand corner of this screen. I'm
Yeah,
like, wow, the time is flying.
yeah. But
I've had fun.
yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and I think I've heard your heart, and other people have heard your heart, and I just want to bless you and Katie really, and the rest of the team who's supporting you, and the kids as well. But yeah, just want to bless you in the work that you're doing, and
Thank you.
just enjoy the journey. Really,
Cheers.
enjoy the journey, because when we've got a goal in front of us, we can sort of focus on that goal. I want to get there, but we can miss the journey sometimes. So enjoy the journey, both of you. Okay.
Thank you, Gwyneth, and I really appreciate that. It's been wonderful to chat through these things and share my story.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, so we'll catch up again soon. Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. God bless you. Bye bye.
God bless. Bye.